So my name is Sean Maloney. I'm the Associate Director of Development for the School of Advanced International Studies, and I'm joined here today with Ellen Cole on her birthday. Thank you so much for joining us. Ellen, if you would just please introduce yourself and maybe tell us a little bit about what originally brought you to SAIS.
I'm Ellen Gilbert Cole. I'm currently living in Los Angeles, California, but I'm an East Coast native, born in Philadelphia. I ended up in college in Baltimore, Maryland, where I was an international relations major, and the chair of our department was just a wonderful man, full of energy, full of modern ideas. And he got us all internships in the city of Washington, D.C. And because I was so interested in foreign affairs, I ended up with a senator on that committee, and that inspired me to look into further studies. And we, of course, all knew of Hopkins because in those days we were at a single-sex college, and we went to dances at Johns Hopkins. And lo and behold, they had more graduate schools than one, the famous one in medicine. And we ended up in Washington, D.C., and my first year was in Bologna.
Oh, wow.
Which was
and maybe you could tell us a little bit about your experience at SAIS.
An amazing experience that forged friendships. We just went to our 50th anniversary in Bologna last year. Just a wonderful year, terrific professors. I think I was the only person in the class who had never been to Europe. More than half the class was European born. It was in essence students from most of the then about to be accomplished common market. We were there the day de Gaulle said no to the British, and that was quite a ripple through the student body. Were you on the side of the French students or the British students? And we took the trip that was mentioned today by the speaker all through the Common Market headquarters, through Brussels and Paris, and we took our vacations all over Europe. And probably the scariest thing was the Cuban Missile Crisis, because in those days there was no email, there were no cell phones, and the way to get in touch other than letter was to go to the central office in the city and stand in line, and the post office put you in a phone booth and you hoped it would connect. And nobody ever thought of calling home. It was too expensive and too long. And parents were on the phone every other minute. Should we come home and die with our parents in nuclear war? Should we stay in Europe and be saved? It was really very panicky. And we got through that to come back to Washington for our second year. And 2 months into our studies, Kennedy was shot. And so as students, we all lined the streets seeing in the flesh the people that we were studying, the major players in Europe and Africa that we only knew from television or newspapers, and there they were right in front of us. It was a very emotional time. So it was quite tumultuous to be here at SAIS. And then, armed with my master's, I chose to go back to the Senate Foreign Relations Committee because I had had such an amazing experience there as a student intern. And I worked for two very prominent and wonderful senators, colorful senators, one Wayne Morse from Oregon and the other Jacob Javits from New York. And then I got married, and that transferred location, and in the 60s you followed. So God bless FDR, who once had a dream of disseminating the federal government. He got as far from Washington as Baltimore, Maryland, and he did it with one agency, and that was about it, and that was Social Security. And I became a management intern with the civil service for about 6 months, and then they placed me with Social Security, and I got a chance to ghostwrite the speeches and do the publicity that sold the brand new Medicare program to the United States.
Wow, that is incredible. Looking back, would you say the pinnacle of your career thus far, the highlight? What is your fondest memory?
Well, I've had lots of pinnacles because I kept traveling around the country without knowing it. Going to Social Security was smart because when my husband got transferred from one city to the other, this was an organization that, of course, was very centralized in the federal government, but had field offices in every city you could name in the country. So I always had a job waiting. And then after I had children and retired, I went into local politics. And, of course, that took a lot of negotiating skill. And I got a chance to be a planning commissioner in wide open fields. I mean, most people get an urban planning commission position, and it's 3 houses here and 4 buildings there. But I was on the Irvine Ranch, which had cows and grass. And we put in city parks, and we put in roads, and we put in schools, and we put in libraries, and housing, and dealt with, you know, everybody you can imagine, from city planners to builders to donors. It was a very terrific experience.
Wow, wow. And if you were sitting with a current SAIS student today and had one piece of advice to give them, what would that advice be?
Listen to everything you're told and absorb what fits your personality, and don't take no for an answer. And if the first thing doesn't work, try the second thing. And you'd really be surprised that no matter what field you go into, you don't have to become a Foreign Service Officer, you get skills from SAIS that you can apply every day to everything.
Well, excellent advice. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for taking the time today and participating in the Oral History Project. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.